Okay, I'm going to try this. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the Shem HaMephorash and the angels of the Shem HaMephorash. Now, right at the very top row here, the yellow rows, Exodus chapter 14, verse 19, there's 72 letters in that verse, and it starts right there, and it goes like this. Did you catch that? And verse 20 starts here, and they spelled those 72 letters of that verse 20 right here, and they ran it in that direction. And then finally, verse 21, they wrote it out normally. That's the third one down there. See, it starts with the Vav, and it goes, and they read it that way. Then they read them in columns, 3-letter words in columns. 72 3-letter names of God. And right beneath that, you see a line that has angelic suffixes, either IH or AL, and that's how they created the 72 angels from those 72 divine names. It's also very simple, but maybe I'll explain it more in today's chapter on the Shem HaMephorash. And believe it or not, this will be the final section of the Kabbalah Zen of the West section of this book. Tomorrow we'll pick up with the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. Shem HaMephorash. One of the most impressive displays of Kabbalistic gymnastics is an elaborate dissection of the Tetragrammaton called Shem HaMephorash, the divided name. I think I can do without all of these lights. How's that? Based on the 4 letters of the great name, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, it is one of the finest examples of how Kabbalists develop new ways of viewing the dynamics of the universe and identify the spiritual agencies who run the machinery. After exhausting all the tricks of Gematria, Notarikon, and Temora to harvest spiritual enlightenment from the great name, it occurred to some bright Kabbalist to arrange the 4 letters in the form of a Pythagorean tetatrix and add the sum of the letters. Now, a tetatrix is like a little pyramid. So they spelled Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Yod, Yod-Heh, Yod-Heh-Vav, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Ragma. And then they added the letters together. 10 plus 15 plus 21 plus 26 equals 72. It was decided that 72 is a primary expression of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. In other words, the Kabbalists wanted to put Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh under a microscope and see more about it. And when they put it through a tetatrix microscope, it turned from Yod He Vav He 26, it turned into Yod He Vav He 72. It was decided the 72 was a primary expression of Yod He Vav He and the key to an expanded or divided name of God. Now, there are 72 quinaries, or groups of 5 degrees in the zodiac, and each of those periods of 5 degree represents approximately 5 days of the year. It followed that each part of Yod He Vav He's divided name governed specific days of the year. This was an exciting prospect, for it promised the opportunity to more closely examine deity by translating the eternal and inscrutable aspects of creation into the familiar time-space language of the Earth's yearly cycle. The next quest was to find the 72 names forming that great name. Turning to the Holy Scriptures, it was discovered that 3 consecutive verses, verse 19, 20, and 21 of chapter 14 of Exodus, each contained 72 letters. All that needed to be done was to Kabbalistically play with these 3 verses until they yielded the 72 holy names. It should be pointed out that these 3 verses are among the most significant and memorable of the entire Bible. Not only did they make Charlton Heston an immortal icon of American cinema, they narrate the story of a massive display of the Hebrew God's power manifested on earth. And in the book, I actually spell everything out in Hebrew and then give the nice English translation underneath it. So verse 19 says, just in the narrative, and it says this in 72 letters, Hebrew letters. And the angel of God who went before the camp of Israel moved and went behind them, and the pillar of the cloud moved from before them and stood behind them. And verse 20 says, and it came between the army of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was cloudy and dark all night, but it gave light all night to the children of Israel, so that they could not draw near to one another all night. And 21, this is the big, behold his mighty hand. Moses lifted his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry, and the waters were divided. Now, I'll just interject here. There's a lot of stuff in the scriptures in the Pentateuch. There's a lot of stuff that's really very, very forgettable. You forget all about the begats, and you forget all about the Jacob's ass did this and things like that. But you don't forget, behold his mighty hand. And it just so happened that whoever wrote Genesis purposefully wrote it in such a way that there was 3 consecutive verses that tell that narrative of 72 letters each. It was like screaming, there's Kabbalistic fun in this one. Okay. Table 3, which isn't in the present edition because it was just too damn expensive to tip in, and frankly I can't blame them because no one would want to buy the book if it was that expensive. But on this morning's on my Facebook page, I put a nice PDF image of this that you can print out a beautiful color one of your own. Just check my page this morning. Table 3 illustrates how these 3 verses are manipulated to reveal the 72 names of God. Verse 19 is written normally from right to left. Hebrew is right to left. Verse 20 is then placed directly beneath verse 19, written from left to right, as if it was a snake curling around like that. Finally, verse 21 is placed directly beneath verse 20, written from right to left. The 72 three-letter names of God are now revealed in the 72 columns formed by this arrangement. Starting from the far right and reading down, we have the names V, H, V, I, L, I, S, I, T, O, L, M, etc. Naturally, in order to serve as a conduit and execute the will of each of the three-letter names of God, there must be an angel to transmit the specific energy inherent in each of those aspects of deity. The names of the 72 angels of the Shem HaMephorash are determined simply by adding one of 2 angelic suffixes to the end of the three-letter names of God. IH, to indicate an angel of mercy, or AL, to indicate an angel of judgment. The angel of VHV is VHVIH, commonly rendered Vahuia. ILI's angel is Ilial, I-L-I-A-L, Ilial, etc. And the table 3 also shows that. That's the first little white row under the red row there. See, the yellow row is those verses from Exodus. The red row is the 72 three-letter names of God. And the little tiny white row underneath those are the angelic suffixes. Then the big blue row there is more or less how we would pronounce those angel names phonetically. Somebody. I went to a lot of work for that, and I was disappointed when it wasn't used in subsequent editions. Not that they didn't try. My publisher, Weiser, has been very, very cooperative with me over the years, and patient with me, too, I might add. Thank you, Mike Conlon. Okay. Also shown in Table 3 are 72 demons of the Goetia. That's the black row there, toward the big fat black row at the bottom. And underneath there you see black and white rows. That indicates whether they're a day demon or a night demon. These infernal spirits, while not directly associated by tradition with the angels of the Shem HaMephorash, are nevertheless associated in pairs to the 36 decans of the zodiac. Many modern practitioners of Goetic magic see this relationship as significant and operate quite successfully under the assumption that the angels of the Shem HaMephorash serve as divine governors of their infernal counterparts. This logic is not without merit, for the hierarchical rulership of the Goetic spirits has always been ambiguous and open to broad speculation. I'll talk more about Goetia in chapter 7 of this book, called Demons Are Our Friends. Okay. A person could go crazy is my heading here, and I start off with a quote from Aleister Crowley. Truly there is no end to this wondrous science. And when the skeptic sneers, quote, with all these methods one ought to be able to make everything out of nothing, the Kabbalist smiles back the sublime retort, with these methods one did make everything out of nothing. Working with the Kabbalah is not a means to an end, but a means to a means. As recondite as one's Kabbalistic discoveries in Gematria, Notarikon, and Temura might be, they can just as easily be dismantled and refuted by employing the exact same techniques and logic. Moreover, just when you think you've succeeded in comprehending the sublime perfection of it all, your universe is unraveled with an alternate theory, a more ancient tradition, or a more logical mode of calculation. Why then should we voluntarily enmesh ourselves in these exercises in mental futility? Is it to overload the mind until it gives up and forces us to embrace a higher level of consciousness? My wife Constance, who hates the Kabbalah, says that if that's the case, her mind's ready to give up right now. In his attempt to answer this question, the heretical Kabbalist Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford quotes the venerable Taoist sage Milo, who wrote at the beginning of this chapter, everything we think we know about anything results from our ability to observe its behavior through a series of consecutive movements. For this reason, the Tao is called the Way, and is said to reside in the motion rather than that which is moved. Unquote. The perpetual chain reaction of thought that Kabbalistic exercises induce can eventually transform the diligent student from mere observer of this movement to passenger on the divine movement itself. Shalom. Okay, that's it for Kabbalah Zen in the West. Tomorrow we'll start with Chapter 3, the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, and the Invocation of the Holy Guardian Angel. In the meantime, go down to my on my Facebook page and print yourself out, or enlarge, or save to your computer this wonderful diagram. I didn't even talk about the small cards of the tarot, which are also in one of those center rows there. So until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Oh, I was to remind you, 1 week from tonight, my Zoom presentation on the abyss will be taking place, and registration is still open for that. And I will again be posting, again today I'll be posting the registration link and a few words about that presentation next Wednesday night, September 30th. Okay. Have a good day, everyone. Stay safe.